Greetings everyone, Slowfang Dance 98 back at it again with another reaction. We're looking at the top 44 best Super Sentai movies of all time. Ranked, that is. So let's see what happens here as we look through this. And why is Metal Heroes there? Interesting. So we're going into this. I might make this a two-part given how this is an hour-long video apparently, so it should be interesting to see. Let's see how this guy ranks the Super Sentai movies of all time. Top 44, let's see.
What is the best movie in the history of Super Sentai? What is the best movie in the history of Super Sentai? For half of a century, the Super Sentai franchise has given us tons of thrilling movie projects that expand on the stories of our favorite heroes and offer us a new perspective into the universes they inhabit.
The Kamen Riders?
For this list, I'm going to include theatrical films, as well as V Cinema and V Next releases, because if I didn't, I would have to leave off tons of movies that I really love, and I think a lot of you guys probably do too. I tried to focus on movies that have a longer runtime, so if your favorite 10-minute DVD isn't on this list, well, that's probably why. But of course, let me know what your favorite Super Sentai movie is in the comments. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Why were the samurai Super Sentai wearing animal parts on their helmets?
First up, let's start out with Zyuohger Returns, Life Received, the Earth's Monarch's Decisive Battle. This is a V Cinema release that takes place after the events of the series, and at this point in time we have humans and Jumans both living on Earth together. There's a lot of struggle for control of the Earth between the humans and the Jumans, so it's decided that a martial arts tournament will be held called the Champion of Earth, in order to determine which species will control and rule over the Earth. This tournament is run by a man named Hokane Daniro, and they find out that he runs a casino and turns debt slaves into actual jewels. Like, literally, he purposely gets people in debt in his casino, and when they can't pay, he just turns them into jewels. But of course, our heroes hatch a plan to rescue everybody from inside of the jewels. And I really just like the vibe here, between the martial arts tournament and the heavy casino theming. This is a really good continuation of the series if you like Zyuohger, and like I said, the tournament and casino themes I really enjoy. Next up is Kira Major the movie, Bebop Dream. This is a theatrical release that was originally scheduled to premiere on July 23rd, 2020, but it was postponed until February 20th, 2021 due to the pandemic, and this movie was eventually triple billed alongside U-Soldier and the recently announced Zenkaiger. This movie is very dream-focused, as the Kira Majors encounter a witch named Minjo, who wields a beastly scythe, and she has the power to control dreams and place the Rangers in some wacky and unique dream scenarios that will definitely entertain you and keep you interested.
Sounds like it.
Of course, the end of Kira Major suffered a little bit due to the pandemic, and I feel like this movie does a really good job at making up for that. From what I've seen within my community, Kira Major seems to be a very popular show, and the dynamic in this movie between the Kira Majors and Minjo is very entertaining, and if you're into Kira Major, this is just a solid, entertaining cherry on top that you will definitely want to watch after you finish the series. Next up is Go-Go 5, Sudden Shock, A New Warrior. This is a V Cinema release in which the Rangers encounter a golden warrior named Jiku, who is on the hunt for an evil alien named Gorumoa, or Golomoi, to stop him from retrieving the Dark Sword, a sword that he knows is on this planet and is a weapon that would make him capable of ruling the entire Earth. Jiku is played by Keiichi Wada, who also played Ryo in Die Ranger. This guy is an absolute legend. I would say he's one of the most recognizable Toku actors out there, and it's pretty cool seeing him show up in a Go-Go 5 movie. Later on, Jiku encounters Kyoko, who reminds him of a fellow warrior from his past named Lydia, and eventually she would be able to even use his armor. This is a cool one-off story, and the first time I saw this, whenever Ryo showed up, I instantly geeked out and was totally invested for the rest of this movie. The next one on the list is a newer movie. This is King Ohger Adventure Heaven. This is a theatrical film that was double billed with the Kamen Rider Geats movie, Four Aces and the Black Fox. In this film, while Gira is set to be coronated as King of Shugodom, he encounters a young childhood friend who disappeared from his orphanage when he was young named Divonica. She shows up singing a beautiful song, and of course he recognizes her. This woman opens a door to Hakabaka, or the world of the dead, to meet the original king of Shugodom. ここにあり our heroes must navigate the world of the dead and find a way back home, which of course is not going to be easy, and they'll have to go through some conflict on the way, which is to be expected.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
This movie has a really good original story about what it means to be a king, and it gives a lot of context to the history of the King Oger universe that I think any King Oger fan will really appreciate.
A crossover?
Next up is O-Ranger, Ole vs. Kaku Ranger. This is a V-Cinema release, and it was the very first of the traditional team-up films, something that would go on to become a staple within the franchise. In this movie, the O-Rangers have to face Baragir and Onbu Obake, so they team up with Kaku Ranger. This movie is very weird, but
I agree with that statement. That was very weird to see.
fun. I'm not gonna lie, there are some things in this movie that will probably make you raise an eyebrow. But despite the weirdness of this movie, all of the interactions here are extremely entertaining, especially Hiroshi Miyauchi really shining as Chief Counselor Naoyuki Miura, playing guitar like a cowboy and just generally being a badass. And this movie has so much historical significance, being the first Versus film, that I really think it deserves a spot here. Next up is Magi Ranger the movie, Bride of Infersia. This was a theatrical film that was double billed alongside Hibiki and the Seven Senki, and this movie takes place between episodes 25 and 27 of Magi Ranger. In this film, Yamazaki is kidnapped and taken to Infersia to become a bride to the Infersia's commander, while Kai and the other Magi Rangers journey to Magitopia and Infersia itself to save her. If the fantasy elements within Magi Ranger are something that resonates with you that you really like, this movie has more of that. And this movie even features one of my absolute favorite Toku actresses, Machiko Soga, as the heavenly arch-saint Magier. And of course, this woman steals the spotlight wherever she goes. So to say that she's a standout would be an understatement. In my opinion, Magi Ranger is always tons of fun, and this movie is no exception. Who are you? Next up, we have O-Ranger the movie. This was a theatrical film that was shown as a triple feature alongside Hakaider and Juko B-Fighter the movie. It was a celebration project for the 20th anniversary of the franchise, and
Are we not going to discuss what that guy was doing with those dolls that he was harvesting legs from? Okay, if he doesn't bring it up, I won't bring it up. Just caught me off guard there. Continuing.
Even though O-Ranger can be an incredibly divisive Sentai season, this movie is so weird and unique that I think you owe it to yourself to watch it.
Looks like it, yeah.
This takes place between episodes 8 and 9, so fairly early on in the season, in which Prince Budont uses a fake movie studio as a front to kidnap people, and our heroes have to stop it, of course. If you like O-Ranger, this is of course more of that, but I feel like they dialed up the strangeness to 11 on this one, and some things will catch you by surprise because of just how random they are. If you're looking for something a little bit different, this will be a good choice.
Seems like it.
Next up at 37 is Tokyuger Goes and Returns, Super Tokyu Nanago of Dreams, and this is a V-Cinema release that takes place after the events of the show. This is a really fun continuation of the series, and we even get to meet Tokyu Nanago, a new Violet 7th Ranger. Tokyuger gets tons of love from a lot of you in the community. I see the comments. And I think a lot of that is because of the heart that they put into these stories, and the whole imagination thing. You know, it's a series that you feel. This is a very warm, well-written movie, and I feel like there's a strong sense of triumph as well. If you're a fan of the series, definitely watch this. Next up is Shinkenger vs. Go-Onger Ginmakubang. This is a theatrical film set between Act 35 and Act 38 of Shinkenger, in which the Go-Ongers get sucked through a portal before Sosuke, or Go-On Red, meets Shinkenger. Of course, Sosuke and Takeru clash because of their vastly different personalities, which can be pretty damn funny. And in this movie, it takes place during Christmas time in Japan.
Merry Christmas!
Oh jeez, Army.
Eventually, the rest of the Go-Ongers would show up as well, and we would have both teams uniting to take on both villain factions, as you would expect. I have to say that this movie has one of the coolest Henshin sequences that I've ever seen in a Sentai movie, and I'm not 100% sure about the reason why. You know, I mean, roll calls are in pretty much all of these, but there's just something really cool about this one. Shinkenger is one of my favorite series, and Go-Onger is not too far behind, so if you like those series like I do, this one's a no-brainer. Next up is Dinjiman, the movie. This is a theatrical film, taking place somewhere between episodes 8 and 26. In this film, a mother is kidnapped by the Vader clan, to the horror of her young daughter named Harumi, and of course, Dinjiman has to rescue her and reunite her with her daughter. Over the course of this film, we learn the deep history of Planet Dingy and how Princess Dingy arrived on Earth. There are parts of this film that go through different film genres, such as Western, samurai film, sports, etc., and it reminds me a lot of Shinkinger's Special Act because it lets us see these characters in a different light. I think that Dinjiman
They weren't kidding about the Western.
is a great series, and this movie is more Dinjiman. But instead of just giving you more, it gives you a lot of extra context to this universe and its history, which definitely gets a thumbs up for me. Next up is Time Ranger vs. Go-Go 5, and this is a V-Cinema release that takes place between episodes 35 and 36 of Time Ranger. In this film, Pierre returns to join up with Don Donero and the Launders. This of course prompts the Time Rangers and Go-Go 5 to team up themselves in an effort to stop this new alliance. This is an entertaining watch that isn't super crazy, but it's really solid, and I feel like these two teams go really well together, in both personality and style.
Jeez.
Next up is Tokyuger vs. Kyoryuger the movie. This is a theatrical film set after the events of Kyoryuger
Versus?
and in between episodes 35 and 39 of Tokyuger. And this movie is also known as the Imagination and Brave movie. In this movie, our heroes have to save the galaxy line from falling from space, while at the same time the Tokyugers have been turned into kids. This movie is a lot of fun, as you'd expect from these Sentais, and I have to say that in my opinion this is one of the more movie-ish movies on the list, if that makes sense. It feels really big budget, and it's so much fun with how visually dynamic it looks and how entertaining the action set pieces are. The characters from Tokyuger and Kyoryuger pretty much all just ooze charisma, so the runtime of this movie will feel much shorter than it actually is, just because of how entertaining it is.
Have to keep that one in mind. That sounds like a fun time.
Next up is Mega Ranger vs. Car Ranger. This is an original video release, which means that this film predates V-Cinema. This movie takes place after the events of Car Ranger and between episodes 39 and 42 of Mega Ranger. This is a pretty strange story about a wish-granting clamshell and the Car Rangers falling under the evil spell of Shibolina before they are ultimately cured and the two teams fight together. The story is pretty cool and entertaining, but this is another release that is successful mostly because of the chemistry and the likability of the two teams. They both have so much personality that it's easy to become interested in this plot.
And they got power vests on those? Dang, I gotta see those super forms again. I forgot that they had that.
Their interactions between each other will draw you in and make you want to keep watching to the end of the movie. Next up at 31 is Q Ranger, episode of Stinger. This is a V-Cinema release that takes place throughout the events of the show. As you would expect by the title, this is mostly about Stinger and his journey to find his brother. He ends up meeting a woman named Mika who is half human and half monster. Sounds kind of weird, but this is a surprisingly somber story that works very, very hard to make you feel sympathy for her, and although she causes a lot of destruction and suffering, you still might walk away from this movie feeling bad for her. For this movie, we get a heavy dose of singing and depressing piano music, but it works really well here, and it helps to sell the emotional angle that the makers of this film want to hit you with. Stinger is played by Yosuke Kishi, who is a professional singer as well as an actor. He performs these songs very well, and if he sucked, this movie would probably fall pretty flat. Towards the end of this movie, it starts to feel more like what you would expect from a Q Ranger movie in regards to tone and action, and we finish up strong with an explosive final act that will leave the audience thrilled and thoroughly satisfied.
Dang, that's impressive to know, honestly. So that's the first 14 movies on this list. I think I'll do about 15 per, make it a 3-parter for this video, because that's a lot to absorb and a lot of movies to keep in mind. Jesus. Definitely want to try out that Mega Ranger versus Car Ranger. That seems like a fun one to me. Anyway, hope you guys are enjoying this. I certainly am. I'm looking forward to seeing what else they have for these movie types, because these movies seem awesome to enjoy. You guys take care. I'll see you on the next video. Bye!